Hey, Toby, it's a pleasure
Hello,
to meet you.
nice to meet you.
I want to say I had this opportunity to meet one of the most famous babies in entertainment history. So,
Really, who was that? That's amazing. No, I think it's great.
I mean, I guess I should throw out that first question is like, how do you feel that, you're known
I
as one of
know.
the most famous babies? I mean, you're up there. I want to compare you to like the Nirvana baby or something.
That's true, actually. I was just more clothed. It was I it's been very wonderful and strange growing up. Weird to have people go, "Oh, my God, you're Toby," and know who I was. That was a very weird experience. But I just love the fact that it means that people love the movie and have seen the movie and continue to watch the movie. And now I just either, surprise people when they go, "Oh my God, you were the baby," or I just make them feel old. So it's seeing me now. But it's been amazing. I love it. I carry it with me with pride. I really do.
Now, for those people who don't know, I mean, I guess we're coming up soon to a 40th
Yeah.
anniversary of Labyrinth. Not trying to dox your age or anything like
Oh,
that.
I turned 40 this year, so yes, it's good. It's a very interesting thing.
Now, for a lot of people who don't know, I guess your family has a interesting story how this actually came about, and you ended up in the film. Could you retell that story to us?
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously my parents, my father and mother both designed and worked on Dark Crystal with Jim Henson, and then uh, beyond that, they started working on a new project called Labyrinth, and talking about goblins. And then my father painted a picture of a baby surrounded by goblins. That was one of the concept art pieces that really sort of spearheaded the movie. And so it then that went away. They developed the whole thing, and it wasn't until they're building and creating that I'm born. My, and they needed a baby, and I was around in the workshop. I was very used to puppets. I was very used to goblins. I enjoyed all of that, and it was very natural. So I didn't freak out anything like that, and it sort of worked. I just happened to be, and I kind of looked like the painting as well. I think that helped. I think my father cosmically painted it, but it all sort of fell in place. The fact that I was there and available, but I was used to working with such strange and wonderful characters already.
So I'm curious, did your father ever kept those paintings, or did you guys kept any collections from from that film?
Not yes, some certainly some paintings, but the Hensons have those different paintings, and there have been prints over the years of them, and we a couple books created of them. But yeah, those images that sort of become iconic, and they are in different places in the world now. Yeah.
So did your parents ever tell you interesting stories about the production on that you participated in it, like you crying on cue or walking away or something like that?
Oh,
Falling?
absolutely. Yes. I mean, certainly. The fact of the matter was that the takes they used was me crying, especially at the dance magic moment with the goblins, because there were a lot of them where I was smiling and happy. The reason I'm crying is because they'd shout action and they'd turn the music on, the backing track for David, and it was just loud. It was like blasting out. So I got scared, and that made me cry. And so in the end, they started ramping it up, and it was better. But that was the take they chose. Me crying, going to bed, not wanting to go to bed, was because it wasn't my nap time. I didn't want to go to sleep. And then the hardest part for them was the fact that on the Escher set is when I was just learning to walk. So I wanted to walk and I wanted to move. I didn't want to stay still. I didn't want to do something for the camera in a certain area. I wanted to move. So I was on the end of like a harness, for a lot of it. So I didn't walk off the set. Like I didn't hurt myself. And I have many wranglers, and there are so many people with balloons and bells and whistles and like anything to make me focus and figure out where I needed to go so that Jim could get a shot. I mean, it takes a lot to wrangle a baby, it turns out. And they did very well.
Well, that is excellent to hear. So, at what age did you finally first recall about you being in the movie Labyrinth?
I'm not sure. I mean, I grew up always knowing it in some way. So, I mean, I think when I went to primary school to begin with, so 5 or 6, it was very interesting to meet people and talk to people, and who sort of vaguely knew that I might have been the baby or something like that. I don't know. And growing up through the school years, it always went with me. And I've always enjoyed that. It's very nice that people know, just mainly purely for the fact as they watch the movie. It means that they were a fan of the movie, maybe, or they'd seen it. And so that's what I like to take away from that. It means that it's reached an audience. I like it.
So, by growing up in the industry, technically, this is like sort of like no big deal to you, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's growing up with the movie and watching it and being surrounded by fairies and goblins, I always wanted to be in the industry in some way. But I loved creature effect films. I loved those 80s and 90s movies that we all grew up with that just spurred people on, and the amazing things that came out of them. And I wanted to be a part of that. I wanted to, whether it be HENSON'S or somewhere else, like work somewhere and build things. I just happened to fall into stop motion actually years later and become a part of that industry, which I like because we build whole worlds like the HENSON'S did for those films. That's what intrigues me, and that's what I love doing. So yeah.
Now, I want to mention that Jim Henson and Shout Studios also are releasing Dark Crystal. You directly did not have any involvement with the original Dark Crystal because that was a few years before you were born, but it became full circle that you did work
Yeah.
on the Dark Crystal Netflix series for a couple of years. I mean, how how was that, going full circle on something that your father worked on before?
Well, I mean, it was truly the greatest experience of my life and in the world, really, because I felt like I got to go home. I got to work with my parents. We worked side by side for several years and bring these characters back to life on screen and work with amazing crew, the HENSON'S and Louis Leterrier, and just really capture the magic again. And it felt natural, it felt real, and I loved every second. I would go back there in a heartbeat. And to get to work with your parents on a creative level on something like that is maybe a once in a lifetime opportunity, and I hope to be able to do it again. But it's amazing. I recommend it to anyone who can. It's truly.
In
Yeah.
the industry, they always say, like, you should always retell the story or reboot every 30 years. And
Here we
would you
are.
would you be supportive or the idea of rebooting Labyrinth, or you think the original is great enough?
Oh, I think the original's wonderful, but absolutely. And I wouldn't necessarily reboot. I would say carry on. Show the next aspect of, Labyrinth 2, like what happens next. Tell more of the story. There is more to tell. I know there's that. I mean, there's that sort of, the energy. The Labyrinth still exists. It's still very much waiting for somebody to visit. So I think you can tell that in many different ways. Find a new Goblin King, Queen, whoever. That would be the interesting part, is to really re-envision that in the Froudy and Henson way, and bring it to a new generation again.
That is true, and it could be you. It could be your return onto screen. Since
I would return as my therapist. I think that would be the thing.
well, Toby, thank you very much for carrying this conversation for Labyrinth. It is a pleasure, and I wish there were more Dark Crystal stories out there. I mean, if this was an interview about Dark Crystal, I would be like picking your brain
Oh, I know.
on on what didn't happen. But thank you.
Thank you very much.